Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay. Good. Cool deal.
Yeah, Mo, I wanted to just, I saw your post that you had on Facebook, talking about the algorithm and the phone, and I thought that was very, it was very important, right on time with a lot of stuff. So, and I know you've been digging into that Quran. So I just wanted to kind of, what your revelation and things of that nature, see if you can build on that.
Definitely. Yeah. So they had this video floating around, and like they would take a 5G phone, right? And they placed it like they would show a group of ants will walk in a straight line, and they would set the 5G phone down, and the ants would go from a straight line to forming a circle around the 5G, and they couldn't break the circle unless the person picked the phone back up. And I was speaking to this guy yesterday, and he does a lot of digging himself, and he doesn't stay on his phone a lot. And I was like, man, this guy reminds me of like when I first started, striving and stuff like that. So I was like, man, like I want to get back there. And he mentioned that his phone was dead most of the time. He just used it to reach out to like his family during lunchtime. So I was like, and just thoughts that I've been having for quite some time, and I just sometimes you don't develop a certain degree of understanding of that same thought until like I guess you get tired of suffering, or you become more aware of like what you got going on, like through periods of reflection. So I got to thinking. I said, man, this guy, he just pulling information from the ethers, and I mean, I know how the science goes, and I know where I was at before, but Allah is the best of planners, and we go through what we go through, like I mean, I think we just struggle too, like don't be like those who fall by climbing, you know what I mean? So the whole disconnecting from the phone, I was like, it makes sense, because our brain is it's a receptor or whatever, transmitter. So I was like, these waves, they're picking up, and we talk about getting stuck in a circle, and we have these apps on our phone, and sometimes we just leave the app on the phone, and we stay logged in and things of that nature. So I just feel like it's like how they say the phone, like they're listening and stuff like that. That's why if you have a thought without speaking it out loud, and then you get on one of those apps, and you can your thought is right there. Like either they're trying to sell you something in relation to your thought, or it's a post in relation to your thought. So I know that there's a connection there. So the revelation I had was like, man, you gotta unplug, because these algorithms, they're just they got you going in a circle. And even though the light, we can talk about the light, and this is just my portion of understanding, the light is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. You can put anything in the light. You can put something bad in the light. You know what I mean? You can bring stuff. That's why I said what's done and will come to the light. So even your bad deeds can be put in the light. So if man is not the body nor the soul, and you know what I'm saying, and we're the observer, we're the one listening to the soul, right? So we are not none of those thoughts whatsoever. We are just pure consciousness observing the thoughts of the soul. Now, that's what, like I was saying earlier, you can have a good thought. You can have a good thought, you can have a bad thought, but that doesn't mean you have to act on either one of those. You know what I mean? The soul wills contraries, but again, man is not the body nor the soul, is the spirit of Allah. So, from that standpoint, you can observe your thoughts and you can kind of, process the emotion and things of that nature. So, I was just, saying to myself, like, I gotta unplug and, I gotta sit on the throne in order to observe the thoughts. And then, because wisdom is the consciousness that man is all, so again, there goes the word consciousness. So, just being able to Islam sit beyond the poles of duality and observe my thoughts and not necessarily get wrapped up in them. Once we get wrapped up in them, we get emotional. You know what I mean? And then sometimes we have these influences and these negative thoughts, but a lot of time that comes from the algorithm. And going back to the algorithm, that's the whole reason I mentioned the light and things that are good and things of that nature, because it could be a post about the light. You know what I'm saying? Something of the light, right? So meaning something good or something knowledge of God or something of that nature. So, and then we like that and we share that. But sometimes these people are just using posts like that, you know what I mean, as a means of, like, I guess, getting likes on the page and things. And I would say, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are sincere, but I know, just by some of the things that I've seen, like, all of those people aren't. And like I said, you can just get wrapped up in, you know what I mean, acting on the good, acting on the light. And like I said, when really you don't have to act on nothing. You know what I mean? You can just let the good and the bad thought just be what it is. You know what I'm saying? Let the soul do its thing. So, but in all of reality, we're on every one of those planes. Yeah. So other than that, that's pretty much sums up what Allah has given to me. So
it's fine, definitely. And you said a lot of important things there, because one, when you talk about, when you mention about unplugging, because of the algorithms and the frequencies, we know that Allah lives not in the noise of tongues. There's no way to and from any idol shrine in Allah's meeting place with man is in the heart. And in a still small voice he speaks, and he who hears is still. So when we talk about that still small voice, and the ability to hear requires for you to be still. It's not just only you, but also, like you said, in connection with that unplugging, being still from the outside influences. You know what I'm saying? And we know that all life is bound in one, and yet, even with that, we have to recognize, this is my measure, my portion. We have to recognize that we can easily get sidetracked, and I'm speaking from experience, because like I said, you can go, especially with the internet algorithm stuff, you can go down a rabbit hole. I can look at something, and not everybody, but I know people who've done this. You watch, for example, one video, and then that opens up the door to a whole nother video, and then, a whole line of videos, and they take you somewhere where you didn't even want to go in terms of what your initial thought was, because one thought can spawn 1,000 other thoughts. And like you said, man is not the body nor the soul. So when we recognize that man is pure spirit, is pure consciousness, is not these thoughts per se, but we can step from that and be the observer of the thoughts. Therefore, and that deals with what it says in the Kabbalion, when you rise above the pendulum, serve under the laws of the lower to master, under the laws of the higher to master over the laws of the lower. And so you get to this point where you rise above the whole aspect of like what you talk about, good and bad, because good and bad at a certain point just becomes a matter of perspective. You know, that's dealing with the principle of polarity. It becomes a matter of perspective. What may be hot to me may be cold to you. We'll be in the same room. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that. Being in that space where we don't have to be locked in and identify with one thing solely. In other words, not that there's no righteousness. We operate with righteousness, but the ideas, man's ideal is his God. And man's God today is not his God tomorrow. As man unfolds, so does his God. So we have to recognize the fact that even with that battle of what's right and what's wrong in the context of I'm right and you wrong, or you're not keeping it real, I'm keeping it real, or he ain't doing it the way it's supposed to be done, you know, all of that we get locked, we fall into, which is a lower vibration anyway. Like you said, the being in the state of the observer, the perceiver, you know, because with that, you get to see the illusion. Getting to be able to see the illusion allows for you to, you know, basically resonate, you know, rise to a higher level. You know what I'm saying? It gets you to see into true reality, alt. Like you said, you know, what is wisdom? You know, consciousness, recognizing the gnosis, the ought, and the naught. You know, consciousness of Allah and man are one. So we have to get to that place. And the one thing I would, just to get into the aspect of the algorithm, because I was studying up on the algorithm, or rather the etymology of the algorithm. The etymology of the algorithm coming from a mathematician whose name was it Muhammad ibn Musa Khawazimi or something like that. So that right there, just the idea of that algorithm, the term algorithm, right, is related to a mathematician, an Asiatic mathematician. And this mathematician dealt with arithmetic, algebra, etc., etc. But the concept that this is mathematical formulas. You know what I'm saying? In other words, the mathematical formulas that the whole thing of us getting into is basically a mathematical formula in terms of what you see on one part of social media that connects you to your thoughts, and have, like you said, locking in your thoughts to move to something else to predict what you think you're going to like, or what you think you'll buy, or what you think you're dealing with math, because with math is probability. The way we think, we're conditioned, and even everything we do as far as with conditioning is in terms of, you know, it's mathematics. You know, it's numbers. You know, that's why we vibrate on we resonate with certain numbers, the 7, you know, the 9, etc., etc. So I think it's, you know, what we're speaking on, in essence, is really important as far as, but what you mentioned as far as is really important in terms of recognizing that we have to really elevate to a point where we're not locked in. You know what I'm saying? We're not stagnant into the device. The device is a tool, but don't let the tool own you. Like all things that we participate in, recognize it as the tool. So that was my thought on it. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to definitely give you honor for sharing that, because I thought that was really that's important. It's fine.
Islam. Yeah, and that's kind of what I said. When you think about the reality of everything that's going on, and Jesus said the truth will make you free. So when we dealing with the truth and we look at history, we know why we call certain individuals devils. Although regardless of your nationality, man has a higher self and lower self. And I say that because it is what it is. You know what I mean? And it's the truth. You know what I mean? Not everybody is a bad person. You know what I'm saying? You got bad people from all nationalities. However, the point is, the tools that the devil used in order to maintain, their position after the fall, you see what I'm saying, is the same tools that, that we can use for good as well. And I say that because, they figured out, this ultimately, you're responsible for yourself, but through paradigms that was pressed on you, you know what I'm saying, without you really having an option growing up like that, you know what I mean? That's the paradigm that they put us in. And I mean, yeah, we could call it the wrath of Allah. However, those same tools that they using against us, like I said, that they get us stuck in that algorithm, and we partake in it, so we get ourselves stuck in the algorithm. And it's like we cooperating. We cooperating with the plan of the devil if we don't become aware to, because to be aware is to be alive. So those tools, those algorithms, if we, this is just my portion of understanding. Like, I take the apps off my phone. I might set a timer or whatever, if I need to go check, make sure ain't nobody send me a message or whatever, I'll go check then, or I got to get on the actual internet like we had to do when I was growing up. That so to me that was like looking at it as plugging in. Let me go jump on the internet. You know what I mean? So that was plugging in. Now you got the apps that just all wide open. You know what I mean? So if we stuck in those algorithms, then we can't. And our brain is, like I said, a receptor or a transmitter, and it's taking this. These waves are just being, you know what I'm saying? It's got to go somewhere. Energy has to go somewhere. So I feel like if we get away from that, then we can rise higher to pull from the ethers, greater knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And like I said, because it kind of like it's like I said, you unplug, and then just to add on from the consciousness point of view, like the subconscious is 95%. I think it's 95%. And that's what controls our actions and behaviors, but that could be, equated to the darkness. And I was told, and I see it clearly too, like the consciousness is like that 5%. That's a parallel too between the nations of gods and earths and all those other civilized nations and individuals that fall within the 5%. You know what I mean? So the 5% is the consciousness, right? So that's the light. And whatever we put in that consciousness, so under that light or under the telescope of consciousness, then ultimately that's like, that's what we're going to get out of it. So that's what I was saying about the good and the bad thoughts. Like, you don't have to act on either one of them, but the moment you do, like, chemicals are released, things of that nature. Like, that's part of the human drama that you partaking in. But another example that I could use, the other day, this guy come up to me. He always, he gives me the same story every time he sees me. He don't even remember me. And if I would have embodied in one of them thoughts, at the end of the day, I would have been wrong, because the good thought still told me like, hey, Mo, he's trying to play you. You know what I'm saying? Don't give him, don't let him play you, man. Protect yourself, So the lower thought was like, man, this dude trying me, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? So, but me observing those thoughts, I was like, what's the higher wisdom that came to mind? The higher wisdom that came to mind was, if you want to serve Allah, serve your nearest of kin, the stranger at your gate, the foe that seeks to do you harm, or deceive you or whatever, So when that came to mind, then I acted according to that out of wisdom, So, yeah, it's just, well, I think once we reach that point, then, I think that's when a lot of that other stuff falls off or dies away. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, that's all I got to add on for right now, Mo.
It's long. Yeah, man. That's real important to be able to recognize what is the higher vibratory thought, and to operate on it, and that entails patience. That entails the ability to be able to wait. You know what I'm saying? To be able to say, okay, I'm not going to react. Let me allow some time, allow the space for the thought to do what it do, and to observe the thoughts that come about and to weigh them, so to speak. Yeah, because I have two thoughts on that, two occurrences that brings to mind. Like I've had conversations as of recent with individuals who have made it a point, and this happens from time to time, and it always, I don't know why. Eventually I'll be able to conclude why this happened, but there's a how can I say, the person is compelled that I'm talking to in conversation at some point in time will be compelled to relate to me how street they are. You know what I'm saying? They feel the need to let me know that I ain't like these other even certain moors, like, oh man, I ain't like these other moors, I'm from this side, blah blah, and they feel the need to go there. And the reason why I mention that is because it brings into my mind of when we speak, do we ever ask the question as to why we say the words we say, and to whom or what we are addressing? When you say, like, for example, if I tell you in a conversation, man, I've been in this movement for such and such, I'm real out here, I'm active. If I say that, right, which may be a true statement or a false statement, but regardless of whether the statement is true or false, the I that I'm speaking about that's doing all it, what part of that of me am I addressing? What part of that of me am I presenting? Because man himself is not the body nor the soul. So am I speaking of me as the spirit of me, or am I talking about the physical activities and the personality and the persona and all these other aspects that I want you to buy into or to accept? You feel what I'm saying? Like, at a certain point in time, you get to a point where you recognize, like, what are you doing it for? And if you get, and we can, like you said, unplug the meditation and things of that nature, we can rise above that and to see the lack of permanence in it. Like that's a shadow that passes away, because eventually, you can't be, the Superman all the time. You can't be the Superwoman all the time. You can't be, I'm the most this or the most that, and ain't nobody got it like I do type individual. Life will show that to you, even if you don't want to show it to others. But introspection and self-examination, as taught, self-examination in chapter 15. Chapter 15 of Amor Sholi Quran, Circle 7. It speaks to that. But I also bring into a point of another situation. As you know, a few weeks ago, me and other Moors from North Carolina, we went up to Delaware, and it was such a great experience. I wish you was there. It was really a high vibratory, a highly spiritual experience, particularly that Sunday. And so much so, and usually I do this just as a given. Like if I travel somewhere and I'm going to like a particular function, I'll totally unplug. Like I'm not getting on Facebook, I'm not getting on YouTube, you know what I'm saying? I'm really not interacting. I'm not getting on Instagram, and very little, if any. I'm pretty much unplugged. That particular event was such where pretty much for the whole week, almost, I think I may have got back on that Friday just to connect with certain people I had to connect to on Facebook. But outside of that whole week, I had no desire to plug in, to plug back in. I had no desire to get on social media. I had no desire to do any of that. And I think that has to deal with the recognizing of sometimes you got to take the moment in. You know what I'm saying? I think we've got to a point, and this is my personal feeling on it, that we got to a point where every moment we feel we have to film. We got to live stream. We have every moment we got to be like, hey, look at me. I'm at such and such. Here's my location. Let me drop my location. And we know the flip side of that on a very negative end of people doing that, like P&B Rock, etc. But even just on a regular basis, it to me it disconnects us. This is my personal view. It disconnects us from truly experiencing the moment, because now what you're looking to do is add an outside device to record the moment for you to try to experience through that device again at a later time when you was there. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone's at a show, oh man, I'm at the concert, I'm at the Drake concert, look at me. Like, why don't you just enjoy the music? Instead of feeling the need to record and let people know you at a show, to each their own. But I think that, and that's why I reflected on what I did with going to Delaware to the temple, because I wanted to take it in. I didn't want to underestimate or downgrade the value of the experience of me connecting on a spiritual level with other Moors from other places, from other brothers and sisters, to recognize the significance of that event and realizing this is a historical event. Not only was it a historical event, it was a prophetic event. It was a prophetic event because of the fact that there was certain elder Moors that envisioned that this would happen. You get what I'm saying? And we could even say Prophet Noble Drew Ali envisioned that something of this nature would happen, where there would be a temple in a state that there was never a temple before, or if there was, it didn't stay long. And it would be young Moors, you know what I'm saying? Prophet talked about the young Moors, young Moors stepping into their place and things of that nature. So there are whole variances of nuances to an experience that you can have that I feel can be downplayed or diluted when you add the aspects of the act. You know what I'm saying? It has its place, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, things shouldn't be recorded, but, for me personally, it wasn't about that. it wasn't about, of course, the pictures that I got, that I posted, I got from the brother, and it was, it was good that it was recorded. But, for me, it was such a high vibratory and such a spiritual event that I just wanted to take it in. And I think that helps me personally, because I'm really sensitive to energy anyway. So that was just my measure on that, just to add to what you were saying, brother. I think that was very important, about the, the importance of unplugging. So Islam. That was really my, I wanted to just share with that, just have a quick build. Of course, this is recorded. I'm talking about recording, and here I'm recording it. But I thought that this was a very important build, brother, and I appreciate you taking the time. And I think there's something we can share with others in terms of, we don't always have to be, locked in on devices. We get, there's a way we can step outside of the algorithm, use it for what it needs to be used for, but don't become a slave to the algorithm. So I wanted to give you honest more, and is they, allow you to say some, final parting words, and then we can just, give the peace to the people.
Islam. Now you on the money, and that was a great breakdown. If for anybody that does listen and they follow what you were saying, that was I was thinking that earlier. I want to go read the Quran by the water. Just when I'm around bodies of water, it's calming to me. Like, that's my go-to place. So I'm reading the Quran, and then just, I guess by habit, I was like, hey man, go grab the phone and post, like, I ain't gonna lie, like I put read the Quran by the water. That was my message, but I also that was after I dropped the message about what we speaking on now, the algorithm and things of that nature, because it's actually when it kind of like fully hit me, when the revelation fully hit me. So I dropped those couple of messages, and I left my phone back in there, and I went back to the car. But I went back to the bottled water, and yes, everything you just said is the same thing I told myself. I said, man, you don't need to do that. You don't have to post, nothing, because just enjoy the moment and things of that nature. So yeah, and that's real deep on unplugging before you have certain events, because it allows you to enjoy that moment. Because at end of the day, when you pass form, that and the moment was that moment, man. So just enjoy it while you're there. It's like the concert or whatever. If you're doing a concert thing and you pull the phone out, like, you're getting your joy through recording that moment instead of just getting your joy from that moment. You know what I mean? So I understand what you meant, and I appreciate the opportunity, and all praise to Allah. You're the floor. Peace.
All praise due to Allah. Honest, more, I appreciate you. You dropped that science on the water. We gonna have to build on that, because I got some experiences with the water too as well. But I appreciate you. Honest to you for the build. So with that, just conclude and just say to the people, peace and love.
Peace.
Islam.